Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our Brain Break session featuring Luann Edwards. We appreciate your giving us your time. Our hope with this webinar series is that we can give you about 30 minutes to just sit back in your chair and relax a little bit. The majority of our attendees today are meeting planners, and you guys are givers. You tend to take care of everybody else. And we would love to have the opportunity to give back to you. So if you can push your chairs back and turn your ringers off, we hope to share with you some very helpful, relevant information about enhancing your social media presence. Before I ask Luann to join us, allow me to tell you a little bit about J. Sullivan Advisors. We are a boutique hospitality consultancy offering business solutions to hospitality owners and full service meeting planning to meeting professionals. I think there are two things that make our team, our company, different than other meeting planning companies or larger incentive houses. First, the fact that we are a team. Like other individual planners, we are high touch and low overhead, but there are 6 of us. So if something were to happen to your lead planners, there are 5 other people standing behind her, and we collaborate on all projects. So you as the planner have peace of mind and assurance that, again, if something were to happen to your lead planner, you've got backup. The second thing that makes our team different is the dynamic makeup of the team. And I will test my sharing prowess here and share with you a picture of my team, if I may. Actually, I'm not going to. So we are made up of seasoned and savvy meeting professionals with Sharon Chapman and Janice Stern, who are familiar to many of you as colleagues within FICP. And then we are also made up of luxury hoteliers, Michelle Babin, Kelly Wood-Stalmer, Joanne Peart, and myself. We bring both types of experience, meeting planning and hotels, to each project that we work on, making your program that much stronger. Together, we are strategists, we are relationship builders, and we are passionate about travel and this industry that we're all a part of. We are passionate about building loyalty through events. And we are also passionate about taking care of others and being of service, be that to your stakeholders or your attendees or to you. We are here to supplement and support your teams. We can help with any part of the meeting process, from site selection and contract negotiations. We have CVent certified members on our team, to being on site and helping with travel director assistance as well. So again, allow us to help, assist, supplement, support, whatever you need. Please think of us in that capacity. And I will reach out tomorrow so we can keep in touch as well. But now it is my great pleasure to ask Luann Edwards to join us. Luann is the founder of Socially Professional LLC. She came from the meeting planning world, but her talent and passion for social media actually took her on a different path within meeting planning, and then she stepped out and focused on the social media exclusively, and now offers her services to other companies and individuals. So Luann, thank you so much for joining us today. I think your topic is very relevant right now, and I appreciate your sharing your knowledge with all of us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to speak with all of you today. I am really excited to talk to you about your online presence and building a strong social media program as individuals. So I am actually going to start my screen and introduce myself.
And Luann, as you're doing that, I forgot again to mention that you are offered to take questions throughout the presentation. So please go ahead and use the chat function. A lot of Luann's content is very technical. So as you're going through, if she sparks a question, don't hold it. Put it in the chat function, and then we'll pause between each slide or so to answer any questions that may come up. Thank you. Yeah.
As Jennifer said, I'm Luann Edwards. I am a social media marketing consultant focused on B2B organizations. I am also a social media strategist, and my background is both meeting and event management and in social media marketing. So before I started Socially Professional, I was the in-house social media manager for a large Fortune 1000 insurance company and created and executed their social media program. So I come to you today with sort of this type of agenda. What is social media in the context of our world today? How are we using it a little bit differently? And then giving you a framework that you can use to take a strategic approach to social media for yourself. And it's really in 3 buckets. You'll see it broken out. The elements of a powerful profile, how do you grow and engage with your network, and then how do you stay connected, informed, and inspired. And then we'll talk a little bit about some opportunities and some things that you want to keep in mind as you're approaching social media. You will get a copy of this deck afterwards, as well as a worksheet for 5 steps to a solid LinkedIn profile. So you'll be able to take what we talk about today and implement that yourself. Please do ask questions along the way using the chat feature, and we'll answer them as we can in real time. So whenever you approach any kind of strategy, you want to think, what are my goals for 2020? Or what are my goals? What is the end that I want to achieve? And so I've made some assumptions, but you are welcome to share in the chat if you have any other goals that we can speak to. But I imagine that staying connected is more challenging now that we're sort of dispersed and in-person meetings are changing. Some of you may want to grow your business or build a business. Stay in touch with your peers, network, learn, develop, stay top of mind for your clients and prospects, and demonstrate your thought leadership. Tell the world about yourself and what's important to you. So what does social media interactions look like for the meeting, event, hospitality industries? So generally, you're attending an event, probably talking about it. You might be doing it now more in the virtual realm. And you're probably using platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Then you might follow the organizers or the company or the individuals you met on social media. You might share your experience as a evangelist or as a referral source so that people want to join as well. You have the opportunity to talk about the values, the mission, or some other element that you really enjoyed. And then you can also just become an ambassador, an advocate. So social media, I don't expect you to read this, by the way, so don't get nervous. But social media really started sort of officially with the technology in 1997 with a platform called 6 Degrees, and it has really evolved over time. And I'm going to give you a link to this that you could, if you wanted to learn more about sort of the evolution. But it started out very small, enabling people to like, comment, post, connect, publish, refer, share, vote up, publish. So some of you already know this. Some of you grew up with social media. So just wanted to set the baseline that any technology, with sort of the intersection of technology and connection and human communication, that's really what we talk about when we talk about social media. So whenever you approach social media, just always keep in mind that that root is really that interaction between technology and communication, relationship building, and collaboration. It's all social media. And just another sort of baseline setting slide here. Every platform serves a different purpose. And I want to just remind everybody, whether you're an expert in using social media or you're fairly new or you sort of use it a little bit but want to use it more, think about it as analogous to real life. What about what is this particular platform offering you functionality wise that sort of would mimic real life but using technology? And so I'm going to focus a lot on LinkedIn today because it offers that business networking functionality. It's really the premier place for professionals to network with each other, share information that's relevant to your business and your professional development. And in an event space, it helps you to establish your credibility, whether you're a speaker or a planner, a company, an organization that offers services. It helps you share news, it helps you make referrals. And then there are other ones that definitely come into play. And there's so many platforms that it's really hard to put them all on one screen. But Twitter, for example, will help people share real-time news about your programming potentially, or things that are happening in real time, short, quick headlines. Facebook has real value. Social media has sort of become synonymous with Facebook. And I think just because of its longevity in the space and its success, and ubiquity, that it offers a lot of opportunity for using private groups to continue to network and engage, event pages for specific events. Now there's a lot more functionality with video and using stories, so that, you know, short-term content as well, and Instagram visual sharing. So really, really useful for those of you who have a lot of great visuals to share to promote your work or the work of your organization or your property. So I sort of lumped TikTok, Vimeo, and YouTube in sort of this one section here. We won't go too much into that today, but these are places where you can either host video or create video, and they're also growing. So these are, if I were to say for the group here today on this call, if you wanted to pay attention to a number of platforms, these are sort of where I would definitely like focus my attention and you know, sort of know how they all operate and which ones might be of value to you.
Luann, we have a comment here from Carlin that she's kind of setting you up for some of your future slides talking about content, but she shared that she just published 2 articles on LinkedIn, something she'd never done before, and she's already been asked if it can be used in Meetings and Event Magazine. She said that reaching people this way has been really exciting, especially since I'm very old school when it comes to everything besides Facebook. So congratulations, Carlin. And as I said, you're giving support to content that Luann's going to touch on in just a second.
I love that. That's great. That is great. And I'm going to come back to that too a little bit later, because I like that example. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So what does the strategy look like just overall, right? Whether it's a company or person, let's look at it in the lens of an event. But just keep in mind that an event doesn't necessarily mean like a traditional event, right? It could be a campaign, it could be a season, it could be an activity. It's easy to look at it in 3 parts, right? What do you do leading up to it in the preparation phase? Well, you're identifying your audience and what's important to them and who you want to reach. And then ideally you're generating interest, registrations, sponsorships, creating a call to action, getting people to sort of opt into whatever is going to be happening. And then during the event or during the campaign or during the activity, how are you engaging with your participants around that? How are you highlighting activity for people who can't be there, right? Creating some healthy FOMO so that they might join or participate in the future. And then at the end, some drip learning. What kind of additional learning can you share after the fact? Help cement that learning down the road so that they think of you as the place where they gain that knowledge. And then gain feedback and preview the next event, right? Send out your save the date, send out your, here's what's coming in 2021 or something like that. But it helps to sort of think of things. I really like 3 buckets. You're going to see I have, a lot of 3s, because it's really easy to think of a strategy as like, sort of the build up, the execution, and then the follow up. So now when I start to talk about social media for individuals, and actually it's sort of similar to what I would recommend for companies as well. There's really, again, 3 buckets. And the first, and I think it really is the most important, the foundation, is what does your online presence look like? And I'm going to specifically focus on LinkedIn for this session, but there's a lot of overlap with other profile functionality in the different platforms. So we'll go over sort of the key ones. But having that online presence is your ticket to the game. It's it's the suit you put on or the outfit you put on when you walk into a meeting. You want to really get that right. And then content sharing. So that example with writing an article, that's really the next phase. And then engagement. How do you engage with your network? How do you grow your network? How do you expand it? We'll talk about that in the 3rd piece. The 2nd and 3rd piece can also overlap. So the online presence is first, but you can sort of do the 2nd and 3rd buckets together. So the most important thing is in your profile is a profile picture. On LinkedIn, it means you're going to be 12 times more likely to be viewed. It's going to communicate that you are actively on the platform. When you meet in real life, it's going to help people recognize you. Or if you've met in real life and you want to connect on LinkedIn, it's going to help them also recognize you, especially if you have a common name. So having that picture is just an opportunity for people. That's why we're meeting by video today, right? Like an opportunity for you to see the person, get to know them, hear, sort of make that sort of visual connection. The other thing that's really important on LinkedIn is this headline right here. So this is a keyword-rich area for you to say in a short sentence who you are and what you do, and maybe even who you might work with. This is what's going to show up in a search. It's going to help people find you more effectively. The other thing I want to just point out is this contact info. I feel like it's sort of the forgotten section of LinkedIn, but make sure your contact info is up to date, because people do go there to try to reach out to folks if they don't want to send an in-mail, or if they don't have in-mail on their account. The contact info is really important to have current.
Luann, I have a question.
Yes.
Are there certain keywords that help with search engine optimization in that profile piece right under your name?
It really depends on who your audience is and what you want to communicate to them. That's an excellent question. So I had someone reach out to me recently, and they said, I literally did a search on LinkedIn for strategic social media marketing consultant. And so the fact that it was in my headline helped me surface more quickly than if it was lower in my profile. So it really depends on what you're trying to offer your audiences. What you want them to know about you as a professional or for your company. So I would say do research, right? Look at some of your competitors, your colleagues, your peers, see what they're saying. Look at potential job descriptions to see what they might be looking for, what keywords they might be using, and just be really succinct in this section. The next section, sometimes I feel like is also a bit forgotten, and that is the about section. It used to be called summary in LinkedIn, but this is a way for you to have a narrative with the people who come to visit your profile. This is how you answer questions. It's how you conduct a conversation with your network. It's how you demonstrate your voice. And the length of it really depends on your voice, what you want to say, and who your audience is. You know, in my case, I want to explain to people how they work with me, how I offer value, and a little bit about my background to help build that initial rapport that you would online. Just a quick note, you want to put that typically in the first person so that people do feel like you're having a conversation together. The featured section is a fairly new section on LinkedIn. It used to be embedded in that about section or the summary section, and it was like media, it was a digital media. Now it's its own section. And this is a place where you can share images, links. That article you mentioned was a perfect example. Even a post that's performing well on LinkedIn. So that's a really great place for you to show a visually appealing representation of your work. And you should definitely take advantage of that. So as far as the experience section, this is something that I encourage you to fill out as completely as you can within your comfort zone. Every position you add to your experience section is an opportunity to make a connection. And LinkedIn, the more connections you have in common, or the more common information you share on your LinkedIn page, helps you have more visibility with like your second degree network, for example. So my recommendation is always a brief narrative of what you do or what you've done in that role. You can also add, again, media to that, pictures, links. So in this case, I've added a couple of images with badges that are relevant to my my work in my company, Socially Professional. But you never know when somebody's going to look at your profile and say, oh, actually, she sort of looks familiar, or he sort of looks familiar. I'm not really sure where we met, but you know what? This is where we might have crossed paths. I'm going to reach out to them. It's just another opportunity for that connection. And as a reminder, your edits can happen by clicking on your picture in the upper right section of the navigation, and then clicking on View Your Profile, and then all the sections have little pencils. So if you don't go in there a lot to make edits, they've made the interface a lot easier. So let's move on to content sharing. So I've been working in social media since 2012, and I've been using LinkedIn, I think, since 2009. And there are still days where I'm asking myself, all right, what am I going to post today? Or what should I say? Or so whether you're a seasoned social media user or fairly new, or haven't used it in a while, coming up with these content categories can be a little bit overwhelming. So here are some ideas for you to get started. You can start with some easy ones, like in case you missed it, or things that have happened in the past that might be relevant to something happening today. So maybe you saw an article, or you wrote an article, and then something in the news is relevant, so you can share it again. You can preview upcoming events or initiatives. And this can be third party. So all of these ideas can be third party content that you're just sharing, or you're sharing a link from another website. Just if you're sharing other people's content, add a little commentary, add a little comment from your own perspective about why you're sharing it, why your followers might find it useful. You can offer profiles of clients or attendees at your event, or some other element of your work. You can share other snapshots of information that you think are relevant to your audience. You can share industry-related content, and you can also highlight notable dates, seasons, activities, things that are happening in the world around you.
I have another question, if I may.
Yes.
Started to jump in. Is there a recommended schedule for loading content?
That's a great question. So that is going to be really a subjective thing that depends on your ability to generate content, right? Because you want to be consistent more than frequent, if that makes sense. That frequency should be more consistent. Depending on the platform and depending on, if we're talking about personal profiles, say specifically on LinkedIn, you can post once a day, you can post once a week. It really does depend on what you're comfortable with, and you can use your audience's engagement to sort of guide you in that. So unfortunately there's no like perfect answer, but I don't know that I would do it more than once a day, but you could potentially do it every weekday. You could do it weekdays and weekends. It's really your comfort level, how much content you have that you can create, and the consistency is actually the most important thing of all.
The author of that question clarified, is there any schedule or recommended timing or research behind, say you post it Tuesday at 2, that gets more readership? Are there any sweet spots in scheduling?
So there used to be, I think it's changed in the past few months with COVID. I think people are using technology, social media differently. I do think that for a LinkedIn platform, like I'll just speak from my personal experience, I do find that my weekday posts late morning tend to perform really well, and that afternoon posts don't so much. And then on the weekend, my personal experience is when I do share posts, they're a little bit lighter. They might be travel related or sort of weekend wisdom type posts, and those perform well, but they don't take the same. They're rarely like say trending, for example. I will take another look and see if there's any new research about how people are using social media now. But it really is sort of the cadence of your audiences. There used to be research that said, right, like Tuesdays and Thursday afternoon, like 2 o'clock Eastern tended to perform well. But anecdotally, I'm seeing more like early to mid morning performing well, like on LinkedIn specifically. So really, what do your audiences need? And this is a good question sort of related to that, is when are your audiences on? When do they tend to be active? What are their needs? And their needs are probably communication, community, maybe distraction, getting information, having the ability to do something, right? Meet people, find meaning. So your audiences are going to have a lot of different needs, and those needs are going to probably be different today than they were 6 months ago, 8 months ago. So, trying to tune into what those needs are will help you sort of guide your content. And then you can create those opportunities for connection with your voice, by amplifying other people's content with your narrative, connecting with content from peers in the industry, talking about your journey, especially your journey now if you've had changes, and sharing content about the impact of your work and your results. You also have the ability to maybe be a little more vulnerable, or being a little bit more upfront about potential challenges you're having or ways you can help, right? Especially during this time where there's a lot of transitions happening due to COVID. So you can talk about the work that you're continuing to do and the impact it's having. And by the way, I've picked all of these are all public posts that I did just through a search on LinkedIn. You can talk about how you might be able to help someone else because you want to be helpful, and then how you might want other people to help you. So there's a few different ways you can sort of put yourself out there. You can talk about things that are happening, things that will be happening in 2021 or in the fall, or anything that you think is going to be relevant to your audience. the one piece of information that I want to just mention is that if you consider yourself sort of a private person and you're not really comfortable sharing a lot, you should honor that. You should share only really what you're comfortable with, but I will say stretch a little, like force yourself a little bit more out of your comfort zone. But it shouldn't, because it's so analogous to real life, you should really sort of use your internal compass on what you're comfortable sharing, what you're comfortable commenting on. So moving into our third section, which is engagement, we have a brief poll for you. I am curious about your hashtag, your view on hashtags or your usage of hashtags. And there is no wrong answer.
Are you able to see those results, Luann?
I cannot see those results, no.
Okay, so it looks like we have 40% of people have said they're familiar with them but don't use them. 31% said they use them occasionally, and 31 also said they're a key part of my social media strategy. So we got 0 hash whats, which is good, but then a pretty even split between the other usages.
Okay, excellent. So part of the reason why I was curious about your hashtag comfort level is that it is, of course, really important to your content strategy, right? But it also is a way you can expand your network. So on LinkedIn, they have hashtag communities that you can follow. And this is a way for you to not only get relevant information with content that's tagged with these hashtags that are relevant to you or interesting to you, but you can also look through the people who are creating content in this category and potentially connect with them. So it's a good way to either interact with content you find interesting, but also to find more people who share your interests. I'm also going to share a link to a really great article about how to use hashtags effectively. It's probably more relevant for those who have a really strong Instagram game who are using hashtags. But generally speaking, on LinkedIn, you probably do not want to use more than 3 is the general guidance. With Instagram, you can use up to 30. Facebook, still, it seems like they're starting to make the functionality more relevant to users. But the idea is that you would use a series of high and low density hashtags, which means you have a lot of followers or a lot of content for some and a little bit less for others. And you can use different types of groupings. So you can use hashtags that are maybe industry specific or event type specific or topic specific or geography specific. So you can sort of use different ones. Again, this is really more of relevant to Instagram and other platforms. But again, LinkedIn, you can do some research to see which ones seem to resonate with you. And what's nice is that if you tag content and it really gains a lot of attention, you then can be trending and your followers might get a notification saying that you have a post trending in a particular topic. It helps you demonstrate that credibility. And it also then gives greater reach to your content so that more people see it.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are there any algorithms behind trending? If you get a certain number of views in the first half hour that the article is posted, anything like that?
Yeah, so I've heard a few different things. They don't share a lot of those sort of behind the scenes algorithm decisions, but what I find is that if, within the first, 15, 20 minutes, you get a number of interactions, likes and comments, that tends to then expand the network and then more people see it. And you then sort of get that long tail of people interacting with it. And then so I've never had something trending on the same day I published it. In my experience, it's been 2 or 3 days later. So I don't think they're not telling us what the secret sauce is, but having that sort of immediate interaction does seem to have a big impact. And doing that, and that does sort of go back to that earlier question of what's the right time or what's the right day. And now I have had things on the weekend trending, not many, but most of my posts tend to trend if they're posted during the week, and they tend to be really, I don't say controversial, but really engaging a lot of conversations. Like one of mine was about employees, like what employees can be told, like can be on their LinkedIn profile, what's a policy for a company. And that generated so much commentary that it did end up being a trending post. So it's going to continue to change, I think, too. So we'll adjust probably in real time to achieve that. Some other ways to grow your network. So groups, I use both Facebook and LinkedIn, because Facebook groups, I think, just have excellent functionality. You get a lot of mileage out of them. LinkedIn groups are good, but I still feel like even though Facebook tends to be about more personal connections, there's overlap, and there's a lot of industry groups that are hosted in Facebook groups. Following hashtag communities will help you surface more folks. And the engagement, like, I know this is going to sound so obvious, but I just want to sort of remind everybody, because I have to remind myself of this. Interact with people's content, not only just liking it, but using one of the interactions. Comment on those. Have like real conversations. That's also just another way to help people who might need more visibility in their network for whatever reason. But do more than just a quick like. Have some more engagement with the folks that you connect with or that you share some common interests with. Share things you think are relevant to your community, and obviously you have the send feature as well. But the more you can engage with people, I think the better reach you're going to get. You're going to signal to LinkedIn that you're more active on that network. So, and I find that when I'm commenting on people's content, they tend to come to my profile, comment on mine, so that it's sort of like this mutually beneficial relationship there. So some quick final thoughts. So we know the benefits of using LinkedIn and social media. You're meeting new people, getting found, hired, retained. You can learn, you can grow your network, you can grow professionally, you can be entertained, you can be inspired. But when you're using it primarily, especially during this time frame, you can get overwhelmed with information and waste time that you might not want to do. And sometimes that is a little bit of a difficulty for some folks using platforms, social media platforms. Understanding the terms of service is important. And just, dealing with people who don't really want to have conversations, but just want to have, sort of make noise and frustrate people. So really just being thoughtful about your social media usage, curating your feed so that you're following people who really add value for you, engaging in conversations that, really meet your needs. And then online persona mismatch. So there's always, without being intentional about your social media usage, it's possible that you're engaging, you're promoting content or engaging with content that might not match sort of the persona that you want to present to the world. So just keep in mind that is, you want to be intentional about that as well. So if I would leave you with any advice, it is really to know your audience. And I think knowing your audience today is not, knowing them in the lens of today. Fiercely protect your attention. That's really curating your feeds, being intentional about when you access your social media content, your platforms, being thoughtful about what you share and knowing your privacy settings. And then I always say, don't post in anger or intoxicated. So keeps you, as long as you're posting with intention, you will be in great shape. So this is my last slide. I would love to connect. If you are interested, you can either use that QR code or find me on LinkedIn. Just mention that you were here today with us. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then Jennifer, if you could pull up our last.
Yes, absolutely. One second. So we have one question that just came in. How do you feel about the Open for Work banner on LinkedIn? What are the pluses and negatives of using it?
That is a great question. So I think I haven't done a ton of research on it, but I do think it's a positive thing. I think it helps people at a glance know who's looking for work, and it is a good conversation starter. So I think anything that communicates something quickly and at a glance is always beneficial. I I might do a little bit of research to find if there's any stats on that that might be relevant to the conversation afterwards, and be happy to share that. But like my initial opinion is that it's a positive. I don't know if I can think of any negatives. I don't know.
I know you shared that being somewhat vulnerable often leads to community and support, and that one of the post examples you shared was a woman who was saying, "I'm looking right now." So,
yeah, yeah,
what can it hurt, really?
exactly.
Yeah. So Luann has graciously offered to share quite a bit of her information with us. The deck that she worked off of today, 5 LinkedIn fundamentals that we can all use to improve our own LinkedIn pages, and then also the article that she mentioned on using hashtags. We also wanted to put out there the question about would you be interested in doing a second session with Luann? So let me put that up and find out more. So I'm about to put that up. If you are interested, just indicate here. And she'll kind of gauge everyone's response, her response to all the feedback here. So as expected, it's pretty much a resounding yes. Yes, please. So yeah, 83% said yes, please, and the rest said maybe. So,
great.
So Luann will put some thought into that, and then in my follow-up that I'm sharing tomorrow, I will communicate what the next steps and with her can be. So thank you again for sharing all of your knowledge with us. Before we wrap up for today, if there are any other questions, just throw them in the chat screen. This has so much relevancy on so many levels, not just the events that y'all are tasked with marketing, but now individuals, as so many more people are marketing themselves. So we have several people saying thank you. So they are seconding my praise and appreciation for your sharing your time and your talent with us, Luann. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting.
Thank you. And I'll be back in touch tomorrow, sharing Luann's contact information and all these additional pieces of information that she's sharing with us. Y'all have a very good day, and everyone be well. Thank you.